Hey, welcome back to another edition of the Film Geeks Quarantine podcast, and hi to the two people who are watching us live right now. Uh, it's been a huge and a long week, at least for me, because I've had almost every day I've had like a 12-hour work day, which sucked. And but surprisingly, while working, I ended up watching a bunch of stuff. But before we get into all of that, let's welcome our one of our friends from the group and friend of the podcast, Ishwar, makes his return again. Hi, Ishwar, how are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, when I ask you how are you doing, you're supposed to expand on like how you are, what have you been doing. I'm not like you've not come for your fucking rishta here.
Okay. So yeah, like Abhishek said, I've also been kind of busy. Been writing a lot of stuff, academic shit. So, but like he said, I did manage to somehow sneak in some screen time. I've been watching a lot of anime lately, so hopefully I can kind of elaborate on that as we go along. So yeah.
Right. What about Arinda? What have you been watching
I
apart from
have
work?
been, yeah, like you said, like it's been quite hectic. But when I need to work, I really can't concentrate on watching something. So I have watched bare minimum comparatively to other weeks. So when I expand on it, people will say, "Huh, he's already watching a bunch of stuff." But still, I'll just say I made a list. So I'll start off with Starship Troopers. So this is a movie that I loved growing up. I watched this again after I don't know how many years. I was back in. I remember watching it last when I was in school. So right now it came across as a completely different movie. I mean, like Paul Verhoeven, this guy doesn't get enough credit. He basically made a Nazi propaganda movie, which was making fun of how authoritarian America is, modeled on the Nazi model of how they propagate all the violence and you know uh, their outlook and how their political views if America went that way. So that was basically this movie. Even the right down to the costumes, right? They were basically Nazi costumes. They were great. Like the imagery, whatever I was seeing, I was like, okay, this is Nazi imagery. This is Nazi imagery. Uh, when it popped up, like it starts off with a newsreel. It's straight out of like what Goebbels did, and also weirdly the characters were in Buenos Aires. Like that felt weird to me when I first watched it. But now I know why. It's because Nazis were hiding, like they hide in Argentina. That's how the stories go.
Hunter season one.
Yeah, so it's very weird. Like it's a completely different movie, and I totally loved it. It has so
It's
many
it's
layers
surprising.
packed.
It's surprising that Ishwar chimed in with Hunter season one, and he claims to be an X-Men fan, and the first thing that did not come to his mind was X-Men First Class. What the fuck, Ishwar?
Come on. I mean, the last thing I remember watching was Hunters and not X Men First Class.
Yeah, we
Okay.
were just talking about Hunters like literally 5 minutes ago. So that's it. Also on Netflix, I watched this really good documentary called The Last Dance about something that I'm not really big fan of, basketball. I don't follow it, but I had mentioned it on the initial post that I had made on a Facebook group that if you were a kid growing up in the 90s, you would have drawn that Chicago Bulls logo and you knew who Michael Jordan was. So that documentary, I did not think that it would have I did think that it would have so much information and so much stakes attached to it. You're literally following winners and what winners will do next. It's about like multimillionaires. They say that this guy, he didn't make much money. And then you find out like he made sort of around 10 or $12 million that year. Comparatively, yes, but again, it's like first world problems. But here we are. I think it was really well made. So Netflix
I think
will.
I think also in the 90s, especially when you and I were growing up, I'm not really sure how much you remember of it, but before we used to watch Raw every Saturday, it was the season.
Yeah,
We used to watch the Sports Center highlights, and that's how we followed the 96, 97, 98 seasons. And
and
I
that
completely dropped out of basketball post that, even F1 for that matter. But one thing which always remains with me is the fucking theme song of Chicago Bulls and that entire season, the 97 98 season, which was, if I have to say, iconic. I mean, that is truly what iconic actually is. Because you ask any kid even now, that's like 25 years removed, right? And people still talk about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. These people are like, you know, these people are still a part of our culture, and they were part of that legendary team. And now Chicago Bulls is nowhere to be found, and now you have your Steph Currys and stuff like that. But however, the for everyone from our generation, if they are following basketball, especially a sport which is not a part of our Indian landscape, I think it has to do with Michael Jordan and Chicago Bulls from the 97-98 season.
I think he's
Yeah,
definitely one of the top three most famous people alive. I mean, like you take, you
without a
ask
doubt.
anyone in the world.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. He made a lot of money off the Nike this
Endorsement.
Air
Yeah.
Jordans. Yeah.
Man, he's
Air
worth
Jordans.
almost about $2 billion.
And he made a
Not a
lot
matter
more
of
than
joke,
that.
man.
And he made a lot more than that just by
There was a
endorsements.
movie which came out which was just a Nike ad, right? Space Jam was
Space
basically
Jam.
a Nike ad.
Yeah.
Like even as a kid when I watched it when it first came out, even then like it felt cynical because every second thing was a Nike ad. And now when you
Bro, they had the logo on the poster for
Yeah.
his Air Jordans.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
recently we had this conversation on the group as well, that it is one of the most cynical and one of the worst animated movies of all time. But people from our generation look at it with such fondness. It's probably has to do more with Michael Jordan and an
Nostalgia,
extension
yeah.
of that league
Yeah.
than it has to do with the quality of the film.
True, like it's one of the worst actors movies. I remember like he wasn't an act like whenever they have these random clips, right, of Space Jam playing. Like this guy, he looks incredulous in each and every scene. Yeah, For the Love of Cows mentioned that we have no new Space Jam. I think there was something in works.
Yeah, LeBron.
LeBron. So LeBron was in talks. I'm not sure what will happen to that.
Dude, they should
Probably
just
money
get
to be
Kevin
made.
Garnett and fucking Adam Sandler, make it Space Jam 2 Uncut Gems.
Hey, please. The problem is that sometimes you have somebody who transcends all pop culture and becomes so famous even when they are not actors, and they decide that, yeah, maybe acting is my calling, and they decide to make movies. That's what happens sometimes.
Shaquille
And you
O'Neal.
have Shaft. Yeah. Was it Shaft? No, it was
No,
not
no.
Shaft. What was the name of that stupid movie?
Kazam.
Steel.
Oh, Steel and
Steel.
Kazam. He made like two
Steel
city
was-
movies.
Kazam, yeah, and those are so stupid, and that trend continues, and it's not just limited to sports stars, of course. It is to socialites also, and you have a lot of socialites who are in movies, and they should not be. But yeah, movie stars, sports stars, it's just a business thing, man. People think, companies think, yeah, it's good business. Let's just put them in. People will just watch them because they're their favorite sports stars, and sometimes it works. And whether you like it or not, Abhishek, Space Jam was a huge hit. It's a huge,
No,
huge
dude, I
hit.
have nothing against it. I mean, see, it's a product of its time,
Yeah,
right? The
it
90s
is.
was such a weird time that a lot of movies which you put, I know one of Arindam's favorite disaster movies is Twister, all right? And if you put it on paper, that movie should not work, right? Even Speed, one of my favorite action movies. And speaking of action, we'll be reviewing Extraction also later. But speaking of Speed, that is a movie which should not work on paper, but it does because it is just well performed. It is kinetic. I mean, it's 5 minutes too long, but still, it's a great watch, and it's a product of its times. I don't.
I'm
think
not
this
sure,
company
Abhishek, whether it works now. It worked then because
Then.
we had a different mindset. Anaconda worked. Baby Dunstan Checks In works. A lot of these movies, Baby's Day Out works when we were kids. Now they don't. When you look at them, some of them are really critically panned movies.
I mean, look at Jumanji. Look at what happened to Jumanji. They had to update it for a new generation. Back then, it was board games. Now it's a video game or
Video
something.
games. And that too, like 80s nostalgia had to be there, okay? So it was with cartridges.
Right.
fucking horrible piece of shit, garbage ass movie. This fucking Jumanji. remake. Speaking of reboots, I recently watched Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which, in my opinion, and I am a huge Kevin Smith fan. I love almost everything that guy has done, even though I don't agree with his opinion at times. But he is a huge inspiration for me. Kevin Smith's this movie works only for the Kevin Smith fans. right? It's a fantastic movie if you are a Kevin Smith fan. But why I took this tangent was because something which Ishwar mentioned was about reboots. This movie asks a very so it's a satire basically,
Right.
uh, and it asks a very pertinent question like what is the difference between a reboot and a sequel and a remake. Sorry. So what is basically the difference between these things? Because essentially, Jay and Silent Bob reboot is the remake of a previous property of his own movie, and he goes on to lengths about the new Star Wars movie too, Star Wars 7, which is basically the remake of Episode 4, and he asks the audience where does a reboot start and a remake start, a reboot end and a remake start, and vice versa. So it's a very cutting edge kind of a movie that way. However, it really hits close to you, and you'll get really emotional if you are a Kevin Smith fan and a fan of the View Askew universe from back in the day. It's also time for our Ben Affleck appreciation podcast. So the best part of that movie is Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck, yeah.
Obviously, because there's an entire speech which I posted up on my Instagram as well, where he only speaks with making puns about his famous roles, like Argo fuck yourself, and then he actually marks out about how good a Batman Ben Affleck actually was. So this is Holder McNeil pretending to be someone else, pretending and talking about Ben Affleck pretending to be Batman. So it was pretty awesome. Has anyone watched?
Yeah, I have.
I need to watch that. Just before Ishwar, we have a word from you. There was this really great story that Kevin Smith told in his podcast. He did not expect Ben Affleck to, be a part of his movie. So he did not write anything. Like he just sent him a mail and he asked him to be a part of the movie. He did not get any reply back, nothing. So he thought that it's okay. Maybe they had been friends like almost 2 decades ago. So he thought he wouldn't be interested. Post that, Kevin Smith has a heart attack, and like he says that everyone comes in because maybe this guy isn't in this world for much longer, so we just do this guy a favor. So he thought that even Ben Affleck, he replied to him. He said that I'd love to be in your movie. In fact, he came directly to set. He came directly to set, and Kevin Smith and him, they had a.
I think you're mixing it up, because what basically happens, and I confirmed this because I watched this podcast twice. So basically, what happens is someone asks him that they are making this movie. Have you been asked to be a part of it?
Right. Correct.
Yeah, I would love to be, but no one has asked me. So Kevin Smith's assistant goes and tells him, like, Affleck is interested. Why don't you guys just bury your hatchet or whatever the problem was? Because no one really knows what the issue was. So he writes.
Yeah, and he flew down to Atlanta and
from Conan the Barbarian, saying that I would love to make a movie with you. And Affleck actually says, like, even in your fucking lowest part, when you have to ask a favor, you always think yourself as the director or something like that. And they made up. And he put up a post on Instagram, which was pretty sweet.
And yeah, he literally wrote a monologue in about a couple of hours for Ben Affleck, and that's supposedly the emotional high point of the movie. We had to watch it.
That is the best part of the movie, where Ben Affleck actually talks about a lot of insecurities which Kevin Smith has touched upon on his own podcast and his appearances. Like, I think one of the best Kevin Smith podcasts you can hear, which is not a Smodcast, which is his own appearance, is the stuff which he has done with Joe Rogan, especially the second appearance, where he goes into a lot of stuff. Where he goes into a lot of stuff about mortality, and he goes about how it feels like to be a father, and how is it like to be on the top of the world in the in '99 and all, when he made one of the best films of the '90s in Dogma, and then coming crashing down to earth, and he addresses all of these things. So it's one of the most revealing podcasts about two guys just talking about the stuff which they love. And it's a fantastic, peek into the mind of these really powerful, influential guys and how they go about their lives. And there's a very funny story in that podcast. If you want to check it out, I will not spoil it. Why Rogan doesn't want to be a part of the movie. So that's pretty epic as well. Anirban, have you watched the movie?
I haven't yet. The last Bob and Simon J movie I watched was Dogma.
I think Ishwar has watched it, right?
Yeah, I enjoyed it just as much as Abhishek did, and I think he's disappeared. Anyways, what's really fascinating is that the movie becomes like super meta, and it's basically Jay and Silent Bob, and somebody's making a movie about Bluntman and Chronic, which is a comic book in their universe and stuff like that. What's fascinating is that it actually picks up threads from movies that have already been done before. So there's a subplot involving Jay's daughter being played by Harley Quinn Smith.
Oh yeah,
And
wait, I have seen this movie.
really,
I
Millennium
have seen.
Falcon. Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, I have seen
Okay,
this
yeah,
movie.
yeah, that's the one. Like that female, she comes Molly Shannon. She's from this thing, the Jay and Silent Bob movie. She's a part of the whole Clit Commander subplot.
Yeah.
So
There's also this repetitiveness in Kevin Smith that I attribute simply to laziness. So the story that you guys are describing now is literally what he did in his Hit Girl 4-issue Hit Girl run for Miller World. So what happens is that Hit Girl comes to know that they're making a movie about her life, and she goes to Hollywood. So
That's
this
the
is
Jay and Silent Bob.
yeah, that's the exactly. So he admitted to that in his podcast. He said that I didn't have much time, so I just reworked my script for Jay and Silent Bob, and we had the Hit Girl story.
nice.
So I attribute it to laziness and also bravery that he freely admits it.
I mean, it worked. So
He's at this point, man, where he doesn't care. I don't think he cares.
has
Just
anyone?
like Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler doesn't care, doesn't give a shit. He calls his movie vacations with his friends. That's what Kevin Smith movies are. He makes them for himself. He doesn't give a shit.
Has
So, yeah.
anyone watched this one? Madness in the Method. It's a movie about Jason Mewes. Has anyone watched that one?
Is it the one that he directed also?
I think so. He plays himself, and he's trying to get a part in that guy from Clerks. I keep forgetting his name.
Jason Lee.
No, not Jason Lee. Dante,
Dante.
the guy who plays
Dante.
Dante.
Right. I can't recall his name.
So he's
The
making.
fat, bearded guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that bearded guy.
The fat bearded guy.
Yeah, so essentially, Jason Mewes, I don't want to spoil it because it's actually a really fun story. A lot of celebrity cameos. We have people like this guy, Machete, Stan Lee.
Danny Trejo.
Yeah, Danny Trejo makes an appearance. Stan Lee, like everybody makes an appearance in that movie. So you guys might actually enjoy it. It's more of a one-time watch, but at the same time, it's fun because you get to watch Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith actually duke it out for a bit.
Do you guys remember Jason Mewes was also in Zack and Miri Make a Porno?
Oh yeah.
And he had this scene where he's talking about self-gratification, but in a different way, where you're, I don't remember what they call it. So basically you grab yourself with your arm and you let somebody else move your arm so that it feels like somebody else is whacking you off.
These are things that you expect from a Kevin Smith script. This guy's like so vulgar and unashamed. Like he doesn't worry at all. Like some of the most cringy tweets in the history of Twitter have been by Kevin Smith. Stuff that you shouldn't Google.
That is true. However, it just goes to show like how far he has fallen, and it's true because I agree with what you're saying. When it comes to laziness, because you see at something like a Dogma, which is so well researched and it is such a great satire and a great takedown of organized religion, and then you compare it to something which he made immediately after that, and that was Jay and Silent Bob, which works as a stoner comedy, but again, coming right off Dogma, it doesn't really work. And then he made Jersey Girl, which was a boring film. Then I think I did not enjoy anything which he made since.
Red State. I thought Red State is the best Kevin Smith movie till now. Like I like it better than Clerks, in fact, because it isn't anything
Dogma.
like Red State.
Dogma is my favorite. Again, because it's a
Same.
Saturday appreciation course. It's
Same.
also yeah. I'm sorry.
Same. Dogma is my favorite Kevin Smith movie. Absolutely the best one, the one that made me laugh from get-go. I mean, it's just the visual imagery is just enough. You remember that first scene?
And
Jesus
we have Alan
going,
Rickman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What
read
a cast,
recent.
man. I mean, what a casting coup even on that time. At the high peak 90s, you had Ben Affleck and Matt Damon right off their Oscar win. You had Salma Hayek, who
Chris
was
Rock.
like one of the most in-demand actresses of that time.
Alanis.
You had George Carlin, and it was such an amazing guy. You had Alan fucking Rickman and Alanis Morissette. So it was like such a fantastic cast. And even now, if you watch this movie, you have all of these people from all of his movies. You have Brody Lee making an appearance. There's a fucking Stan Lee cameo in this.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it where it is, but there's a Stan Lee cameo, which is one of the most. It's kind of not shocking, but it takes you by surprise.
Yeah.
But also hits a very emotional. It's a very emotional part of the movie.
It's almost as good as the one he makes when he's talking to this guy.
And Mallrats.
Yeah, Mallrats, right.
Since we're talking Stanley, let's just name, your favorite cameo. What's your favorite Stanley cameo? Marvel is there, but he has made a bunch of cameo in other stuff. What's yours? Let's start with Abhishek.
I just named mine. I mean, Mallrats, I think.
Mallrats,
is my favorite.
Mallrats.
Mallrats is the closest to Stanley's soapbox that we've got in a cinematic format, because he says all of these things which we know but we tend to forget. The most basic advice which one can make in a most concise form, if that makes any sense. I think that's the one which sticks with me the most.
What's the best one for you, Anil?
I'm not sure which is the best one for me. It's a very difficult question to answer. I think the first time I actually noticed him was in Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi movies. And then after that, sometimes it's very stupid, the way that appearance is made. You remember the Edward Norton Hulk appearance? Where he just
When he drinks the green juice, right?
Brilliant. Yeah. Where he drinks that thing and he goes Excelsior.
Yeah.
For me, it has to be Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, he has this great.
You knew this answer. You knew this answer. You had prepared. And
I'm not prepared because we brought up saying it has to be, Stanley, that cameo. He does this regular speech of his, the quintessential Stanley speech that he gives to Peter Parker in the Spider-Man movies. And then he points to the sign, that not everything's free, I think. Something like
no
that.
Refunds,
No refunds. Yeah, no refunds. Man, that is Stanley, that is perfect. That is the perfect epitome of Stanley. And I think that came out after he died. And it just hit the nail on the head. It was perfect. I thought it was the perfect tribute.
Is there still, that lawsuit going on with his...
the daughter
state and all, yeah.
Yeah, it's too complicated, man. I'm not sure what's going on.
Also, I think lawsuits continuing after someone's death and just talking about it feels kind of gross to me. So, I don't know. The only one which I followed closely was Michael Jackson, but the Stanley one, I just gave up. I don't care anymore. It doesn't matter because the guy was leeched at the end of the day. But then again, some people would say this is just desserts for what Stanley did during his tenure as the editor of Marvel and post that. But then again, no one deserves this. Ishwar, what is your favorite Stanley cameo? Non-MCU, and we'll get into MCU also if you guys want.
Yeah, Mallrats has to be my favorite. Same as yours. Kind of because that entry to start off with was unexpected, and I think he had a beard, which kind of
that was the coolest look.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say.
Okay, I see how it would work. And then he starts telling Brody about love and, going out there and, getting the girl and stuff. It was a very sweet, very touching moment. So I kind of like that. That's probably my favorite.
So one more, right off the cuff, if there was a Stanley, a biopic being made, whom would you guys cast?
Mark Maron.
Yeah, Mark Maron. That would be my answer as well. He looks perfectly as the part,
He actually tweeted back to me.
He was there in Endgame as well. I think he played Stanley in Endgame.
His voice is so stupid, man. I don't know.
The guy actually tweeted back to me. I actually asked him, what would you do if you were playing Stanley? He'd be like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'll do it. And the guy actually replied. I was like, wow, okay.
He came out with a show a few years ago, right? Mark Maron. I don't know.
Yeah, Maron or something, right?
And that's
podcast. It's one of the biggest podcasts in the world.
Not podcast.
No.
He came out with an actual
show. He has a show too. Yeah.
Half an hour comedy series.
It's like Louis. It's exactly like Louis. The show,
but stupid.
Yeah, it's
not as good.
Louis was fantastic. Anyway, sticking to cameos, now that Stanley has passed, and would we want cameos in the MCU? And if we do want cameos in the MCU, who should these cameos focus? Who should be the integral part or the common part of this of these cameos, and why should it be Deadpool?
Why should it be Deadpool?
Why should it be Deadpool? It seems.
Yeah,
I
mean,
think
who else would you want? I mean, this is a thread which takes off from my fan theory, which I said on this podcast a couple of episodes ago. So yeah, I would. If there is any common character who should be a part of this, it should be Deadpool.
so. Adil, how have you been?
Yeah, man, it's going good. Had a lot of time to catch up on a lot of movies and TV series. So it's been a very good time, and I like staying at home. So अच्छा ही चल रहा है.
So, ones who don't know, Adil edits all the podcasts for the show, and he has been wanting to be on the show for a long time, but for time constraints or our schedules not matching, it wasn't possible till now. So, Adil, tell us about the stuff that you've been watching. We were just talking about Stanley and his cameos in MCU, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, like future MCU के लिए it will be like a major drawback kind of thing, because like we are all so excited to see him on the screen. Like क्या role में आएगा, what will he be portraying, or what will he be doing, or क्या उसका one line रहेगा. So it will be a kind of a sad thing not to see him in the future MCU. So yeah, I've been watching a lot of things. Let me start with Kidding. So Kidding season, दोनों season देख लिया था, and I loved it. It was like kind of a dark and humor.
One second. Before you continue, I loved how he said like, "Ha, Stanley मर गया, अभी MCU very sad." Ha, basically fuck MCU. Kidding देख रहा है अभी.
MCU. MCU is now like what do you say? There's no like hope. I mean, ऐसा नहीं बोलूँगा कि hope वगैरह नहीं है. But let's see where they're headed. Because whatever it was, Endgame was the final thing. So let's see where they're headed.
I think the next phase, whatever. Okay, this is going down into an MCU discussion, and I'm not. I'm not.
Yes.
I'm not in for MCU discussion. Right?
All I care about is we're getting Moon Knight, man. So
Yeah. If we get a Moon Knight,
if we get a Moon Knight,
if we get a Moon Knight at all, we even have no idea who's being cast, etc. Everyone will freak out if Daniel Radcliffe actually gets the part,
Guns
I don't
akimbo
care about the casting. I really want Dan Stevens to be Moon Knight, but I am more worried about which storyline they adapt, because I'm not. If they adapt the modern all new Moonlight, all different Moonlight, it'll be fine, because the stuff from back in the day from the 70s and the 80s, they come across as a little hokey. The Doug Mensch stuff, although even if they do, I don't think they will do the Bottom and stuff like that. The David Finch, Charlie.
I think they're going to do From the Dead. That has to be the full.
I hope they do From the Dead. That should be, and it should end with him going to the mental hospital. And season 2 starts with fucking new
Jeff Lemire's run.
Yeah. The Jeff Lemire's run. So that is something which I want to watch, but I'm not really sure. Marvel has been disappointing me this entire phase 4. So I don't know.
Wait, Adil was just.
Adil was talking about kidding. Sorry, Adil, just kidding. Tell us about Kidding. Tell us how it changed your life.
I've been catching up on a lot of stuff. Like Arindam ने भी बहुत सारा recommend किया था. I mean, like I've been following up with the the Film Geeks from the Facebook. So yeah, I've been catching up on a lot of stuff. Like more than TV series, I've been watching a lot of movies now. So the recent one was yesterday. I watched Extraction, and then I had started watching the Willoughbys, which was trying to balance out what the thoda about bad taste that Extraction had left. So yeah, Willoughbys was a very good one. Had Ricky Gervais also, and comedy was good. Yeah, basic family stuff and all.
Speaking of Ricky Gervais, one second, Adil, I'll just interrupt you. Did anyone follow Afterlife, his latest show?
Yes,
the second.
I did.
The second season. Yeah, the second season just dropped yesterday. So I'm really excited for that.
The first season. I love the first.
Truly, it's some amazing writing, right?
It's amazing the way you don't expect that kind of poignancy and that kind of writing from him, because you see him sort of an asshole, like as the asshole. Mostly he's the asshole, in this he is also the asshole, but he is a depressed, sad asshole, and that's what makes.
The
I don't
first
know if that
season's
makes
premise
sense.
is just about him trying to kill himself.
Yeah,
That is, and just like something or the other, like his dog has to be fed and he runs out of dog food. So he's like, I'll commit suicide later. Let me just go get some stuff, like, food for the dog. So that's how it starts off. It's really well written. And Anil, you say that, he's not been writing poignant stuff. I'm not sure if you watched Derek,
Derek.
which he plays a mentally unstable, like caretaker of an old age home.
yeah.
Sounds depressing, but it isn't.
I forgot about that show completely.
Yeah,
But
Derek.
I would disagree that he doesn't write poignant stuff, because most of his stuff is very touching. Yeah, I mean, look at the most famous, so his calling card with The Office. I mean, look at the Christmas episode of The Office. I mean, where David Brent actually turns face and he asks that guy to fuck off at the end.
Pinchy.
Yeah, he asks.
well,
Pinchy
that's
to fuck
true,
off.
but that's slice of life in a very different way. This is also very slice. This is also a slice of life, but in a different way. That is something that you don't see happening in a normal scenario. That is something that is a forced scenario, but you're forced to think whether that can happen or not. In this, it's actually something that you can imagine can happen to somebody, and I think that's what makes it different, a little different. It's not something that's out of this world. It's something that actually can happen, which is why I think it's different from the rest of his work. And if you haven't watched it, you definitely should, because it's just brilliant.
When stuff like, they are great writing teams and then they go to individual projects, you sort of realize who had the greater influence over the stuff that you love. Like it happens in music, in which, you listen to RATM and then you listen to Zach De La Rocca's solo stuff and you listen to
Night
Tom Morello's,
Watchman.
Tom Morello's solo stuff. So you know that, who was the major contributor to that, what made something special. So I think something similar happened here as well. Like Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, they were they were one of the greatest writing pairs of all time, on television at least. Like they worked magic. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen the HBO show by Stephen Merchant called Hello Ladies. It just had one
Yeah,
season and
I have,
one
I have.
movie.
One season and a movie, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good show, but then again, it did not have that heart that stuff like Ricky Gervais alone when he writes that has it. So you get to know, like, who has who's a better writer, sort of, to say. Not that any one of them is bad, but just like, who's the great one among the two.
I always liked Stephen Merchant, but I not recently, like a couple of years ago, watched Fighting with My Family. And if you know me, I am like a huge wrestling fan. And the
It
fact
stars
that,
family, right? The one who wants to
yeah,
wrestle
Paige's
that girl.
family.
Yeah, pages, and you don't want to know
So
what happened when this movie was just about to release.
Okay.
it released and then it happened. Anyway,
Speaking
so
of Ricky Gervais, one second. Speaking of Ricky Gervais, there's one show that does of Ricky Gervais that doesn't feature Ricky Gervais. That is an absolute favorite. There's An Idiot Abroad.
Yeah,
Have you s-
Carl
Yes,
Pilkington is
Carl
gone.
Pilkington. Does anyone know the background of the show? Ishwar, have you watched An Idiot Abroad?
No, I've only heard of it.
So
So,
you can just
basically,
follow the
they had a
podcast also,
podcast.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it started off with the podcast. It started off with the Ricky Gervais podcast. So him and Stephen Merchant, they used to host a podcast where they used to randomly talk about things. Like this is from like
Everything in the world was a subject.
Yeah, they just randomly, like stuff like Bill Burr and stuff. These guys are the precursors. So whatever happens, they just randomly talk about it. So they had this idiot producer called Carl Pilkington, and everyone thought that this guy was a made-up character. And they started featuring him on this show. And they had this thing called Monkey News, where they actually told Carl Pilkington about different types of monkeys and what they were doing at that particular, like if there was any monkey in the news. So this guy was featured in one of these shows. So people started telling them that this guy is completely made up. He is not real.
Because the
Carl
stuff
Pilkington
that
has
he was
some
saying,
amazing stuff to say, like these unbelievable.
like it's unscripted, and it's so funny that you won't believe that someone is just like saying this randomly in a conversation. These are like
Yeah.
great television level writing.
Right.
Yeah, you would actually think they're scripted. What's his name? Conan. Conan also does something very similar with one of his producers, Shlamansky or somebody.
Yeah,
right?
Jordan
But-
Schlansky.
Shlansky, yes.
Yeah,
But that's totally scripted.
correct.
That he writes those things with the producer and they act it out. But this Carl Pilkington is not. This just truly funny to see that somebody actually has that outtake on life. And it's just every trip for him is such a painful experience that you just enjoy that show so much.
I'll just tell you about one of the episodes in season 1. So every episode starts with Carl Pilkington going to Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant's office, and they give him an assignment like, you are to go to India, you will go see the Taj Mahal. And what they don't tell him is that they will set him up at the shittiest hotel that you can find. When you open, they tell him that you'll be able to see Taj Mahal from your room. When he opens the room, it's like the Yamuna River, all its dirty glory, and it's like utterly bad. They set up the worst experiences, and he goes through them. Like, he's a total nut job. He, just by the way that he experiences the world, it's like a fully grown baby. His brain hasn't developed yet, but the stuff
he
that he
has
says
like
is like
most
unbelievable.
unique takes. Like I remember the India episode where the power goes out and stuff, and he has to leave in the morning, and he doesn't have water to bathe and stuff like that. And he says like, you know what? I'll make the best out of the situation. I'm energy efficient. I am bald, so I don't have hair, so I don't have to wash my face with all of this water.
Yeah, random
use
leaps
a
of
hair
logic.
dryer. Yeah, it's some weird logic, and he just goes through with these things, and he doesn't complain, and which is the weirdest part. He comes back and he's ready for more. But I would highly recommend, the podcast is a little difficult to find, but you just look up on the internet and check it out. It's amazing. It's the Ricky Gervais podcast from like a decade ago. So
You
Carl
can just
Pilkington-
search for Carl Pilkington and
Yeah, and Idiot Abroad.
There's
I think the
lots
show
of it deserves appreciation. A lot of it, I think.
What were we talking about before this?
Yeah, Adil was speaking about the Willoughbys. No, Willoughbys.
No, sorry. The Theek Thak movie, that so if you're trying to watch something just to get your mind off, few things that you've been watching, like too depressing or anything, that's like a good movie to watch and try to sort of unload karne ke liye, it will be a good watch. Then like I think more than series, movies zyada dekh liya, and like I've been watching a lot of horror lately, which I've been trying to put off for a very long time, unless I don't have like 2 or 3 people with me watching together, so that I don't get scared.
Same.
So yeah,
We-
so since like I have like a few friends who are staying with me now, so I've just got the courage to watch a few horror movies, and the recent ones was Hereditary and Midsommar. And I think Fuzail had recommended watching
Little
Before
bit
I
like-
Wake and Oculus, I think so. Yeah, and they were like
First 2 great picks. Next 2 not so much.
but it,
Hey,
but it
Oculus
was
was
good. Yeah, Oculus was really
I didn't
good.
like. I wasn't on the Mike Flanagan board then. I found it very generic, to be honest. But tell us how you like Hereditary. Like, I think it's
Yeah,
like
one.
Hereditary
It's a masterpiece.
was
hold
like-
on. How is that plot generic?
I
That
found
is
it generic. I
literally
mean,
which you've never seen this ever done. A
No.
mirror which kills people.
yeah.
like,
Every time
there
I
is no origin story to that, like nothing. Like mirror hai and
I
it's
thought
just
Mirrors.
like-
Mirrors. The movie Mirrors is like, I thought it had like sort of the same thing. The one with
No, man,
Jack
why?
Bauer.
No.
Mirrors was
I
not
think
that
you're confusing
level.
the Keeper Sutherland film with this.
No. I
Mirrors
have
are
watched
very
it. Like, it had Karen
Have you
Gillan.
watched
Right?
Hereditary?
Yeah. Tell us about Hereditary. I think we can do this all day.
Where is
So, like,
Ishwar? I think he's dead.
I'm
no,
here,
he's
I'm
there. He's there.
What is
Yeah,
that?
have you watched Hereditary?
You
I
fucking
have
are
only
not
watched
letting him
Midsommar.
speak, okay, Abhishek? And then you're complaining.
No, I've only watched Midsommar. I haven't watched Hereditary.
What do you think of Midsommar?
I loved it actually. So I watched it with a friend who actually is a huge horror fan, doesn't watch a lot of English movies except for horror. And I actually enjoyed it so much that I actually want to go back and start doing some weird studies in sociology, understanding like tribal behavior and shit. Shit was
That's the problem with
fascinating.
your PhD, folks, man.
It was
The entire point
fascinating.
of the movie was don't do shit like this.
It was fascinating.
And that's what you take away from this movie.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 old people falling off the cliff was like, this is
That's a
interesting.
chupa.
Yeah,
That's what
it was-
it's called. Right?
Interesting. Interesting. It's not
Okay, why would they do that? Would they perceive themselves as burdens to a particular tribe? research must be done further. And I mean, come on, man, you had CD in the movie as an academic, okay? Nothing can get more meta than that.
I think Ari Aster, like, he's a really good director, man. Like, both the movies, this is a daytime horror movie. Like,
Yeah.
literally nothing scary happens at night. Everything happens like full
In the
sunlight.
daytime, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, like everything happens like any time of the day.
correct. And it had some great cast. I didn't expect, like, I didn't know Will Poulter was in this.
Yeah.
I actually avoided watching the trailer because I knew Ari Aster has, so I have to watch this.
Oh, and I just realized who that guy was, the boyfriend. He comes in Sing Street.
Ah, correct.
He's the brother.
Right. Sing Street is a really good musical.
Yeah.
It's like the Rocky for musicals. Like, that was what I felt like. It was like I
Right.
just watched Rocky.
Yeah, I know. And the music was really good, like song choices and the fact that Adam Levine like came and did a nice number at the end.
Yeah. Adil, which would you say was a better movie, Hereditary or Midsommar? Which did you like more?
I wouldn't, say that Midsommar was like an actual horror, like a proper horror, like Hereditary was. I think Midsommar would be, I would just say that it's a very good psychological thriller,
Yeah.
rather than saying it's an horror. But Hereditary was like a proper horror, and I think if choosing both of them, I think Hereditary would win easily, because Hereditary had like a really great scenes, like really good cinematography and music. The suspense was there.
It plays with your mind, that there are some
I mean, like you
shots of the set.
you have to literally pause it and see, what's there in the screen, what's there in the
I
background.
think you're talking about the grandma scene, right? In which there was that old lady who was sitting
Old
in the
lady
room.
was there, and
Even
in
I
the
had to
ending
pause.
scene, the mom is there in the corner of the ceiling there, and she just jumps from there to there. It was like really scary, so I had to like pause or just go and hit rewind and then see. I mean, ye scene ke piche kya tha? I mean, like, was there like really someone in the background or something like that? So yeah, Hereditary was scary. Midsommar was like really good. I mean, most people won't watch it because of the slow pacing and the.
Have you watched The Witch, Adil?
I'm planning to watch it. I mean, I've downloaded it.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy that a lot because it's from the same crop of people who have been making these movies. And
Yeah,
I
like
think
I've read, and I mean, like you people like always mention
Robert
it.
Eggers and Ari Aster are like, two directors to look out for. Like, whatever they are doing, I am in. His next
You're
movie,
missing out on two more. You're missing out on two more. Adam Wingard and Mike Flanagan.
Adam Wingard, he made Death Note. After that, I kind of lost faith in him, and now he's making Godzilla
He
Godzilla
made
versus
Your
King
Next
Kong.
and The Guest.
I love those. You know how much I love those movies, but adaptations and big screen, I don't know, man. These two are like, they aren't there in the mainstream. You listen to the interviews, they're like not interested in what's going on at all. Like Robert Eggers right now, he's making a movie about Vikings, so that is something that I want to watch. Like, who wouldn't?
Ishwar, have you watched Your Next or The Guest? The Guest,
No.
which is basically a Terminator remake.
It was that Dan Stevens thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't finish watching it. I think I fell asleep.
That's sad.
No,
So much
I mean,
hype,
I
and the
was-
guy says that he fell asleep.
I mean, I liked it. Again, it was good, but I was just kind of tired, long day, so I just put it on.
I
and
think the
kind of-
score was fantastic for that one.
I mean, when Abhishek said Dan Stevens would make a great Moon Knight, it's kind of what I remembered. Those scenes from Guest where he's actually going ham on those guys at the bar.
Yeah. Anirban, your thoughts?
On the
On which guy are we talking
On
about?
Adam Wingard. Because this ties into what I'm going to talk about next. Because he is directing one of the most anticipated movies for me personally this year, and that's Godzilla vs. Kong. His past movie was Death Note, which sucked ass, and but everything which he's done prior to that, including the Blair Witch remake, I really like. So Blair Witch, I think, was his weakest, but Your Next and The Guest were some of my favorite horror films of the past.
So you're actually putting Death Note over as
No, I'm saying
not the
Death Note.
weakest
Death
movie.
Note. Death Note sucked dick. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about till he made Death Note. Blair
Yeah.
Witch was like his weakest.
I do think if you just disregard that movie completely, yes. And in spite of how heartbreaking that whole movie is for that whole genre, I mean, it introduced a whole new genre to the horror movement, and that's brilliant and all. But in itself, the Blair Witch Project, uh, I know what you're talking about when you say it's one of his weakest movies. I do like his other movies. I think The Guest and Your Next are good movies. So I did like VHS to some extent. I did think that it was pretty well made in that sense.
I like VHS 2. Even VHS 2 was also quite good. Gareth Edwards did a segment on that.
Yeah,
VHS 1 and VHS 2 were great. After
Yeah.
that, it's
yeah, and with the thing is, when you're an indie movie maker, then your sensibilities are, I think, different. And then when you get budget, like it did for Death Note, I don't know. Does it change completely? Some directors,
They adapt
producers
well.
are able to channel that whole thing very well. But some probably are not. Is Adam Wingard one of those guys? I don't know. So I'm sure that either it'll be a really good movie or it'll be a very shitty movie. There is no midway. It will not be an okay movie to watch. It'll really disappoint. And with the current scenario, of course, that's a very real possibility.
No, Anir, I think I'm kind of piggybacking off what you said. I think in terms of adaptations, it becomes a little difficult, especially when they're anime, when trying to adapt it for a more Western audience. A lot of movies that have tried to adapt popular anime or manga properties have failed miserably. Case in point,
The same goes
Which
for
is
the gaming
true.
thing also.
exactly.
Which is true to some extent. I understand what you're talking about. But there have been good movies made on mangas. Granted, they are not based on shonen mangas.
Right.
Like Ichi the Killer, the movie, I love that movie. The
Old
manga
Boy.
and-
Lone Wolf.
no. He's talking
Old
about
boy,
from a
dude.
Hollywood perspective. Eastern
Yeah.
philosophies does not matter. They can
I
adapt
understand.
whatever they want because they have that philosophy down pat. We're talking about adapting Eastern
I don't think
Like
it
Dragon
matters
Ball.
that much. I
You
don't
can
think
say
it
like
matters
Dragon
that
Ball.
much because
No, there was a Death Note
other
adaptation.
mangas. Other manga, there's a lot of adaptations. I'm saying that most of them do not work. Even in an Eastern context, most of them do not work. You have you have so many of them coming out, and none of them basically works. There are some which are a little esoteric because of the concept alone that they might work, but if they work there, then obviously you're going to take it and you're going to adapt it to, say, Western concept because
No, you're right. I mean,
it's
see, for
about
instance,
money.
they're trying to adapt One Piece into a Netflix series, a live action series.
It's impossible. man.
Which is practically impossible given the scale, given the characters, given the backgrounds, given the philosophy, all of it. It's difficult. I really don't know how it's going to pan out, given that One Piece is a very beloved franchise at the end of the day for a lot of people. I mean, there
By
are
the
people
way,
who
there was
sit.
one shonen franchisee that was adapted in Japan, which I really liked, which was Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh, fantastic.
Good adaptation. It
Oh,
was well done. It had picked up that whole arc from the anime itself,
Yes.
which was, I think, a very decent, good arc, and they adapted it very brilliantly. There was nothing over the top. I think that's where you go. I mean, they did the same thing with Alchemist, right?
Yeah. No, the
Fullmetal
thing
Alchemist.
is,
That failed badly.
no, but the weird thing is, you can see that they've actually put in a lot of work in trying to adapt possibly very outlandish characters to screen. With superheroes, you kind of can understand there's physics and all kinds of stuff involved. But when you're trying to adapt something like Bleach or Full Metal Alchemist, so there's an entire world people have gotten used to, and then having to see them on screen is like a huge transition for them. Like, for instance, there is actually a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure movie.
Live
It's called-
action?
yeah, it's a live action JoJo's Bizarre Adventure movie. And it's actually from the third series called Diamond is Unbreakable, which is what I binged during my time. And I watched the live action movie as well just to see how they stacked up. They've actually done a decent job in trying to make it as realistic as possible. But it only works if you're actually, Japanese, or you kind of understand the culture and the background they're coming from. Whether this would work in say a Western context, I think it's highly unlikely unless or until people are kind of, they embrace the fact that this is from a very Japanese perspective, and there's a lot of Eastern philosophy involved.
By the way, guys,
Right.
from the comments, Mrigank has asked that can you guys give any recommendations for good pagan horror movies, if pagan horror is such a thing? So I said that The Ritual can be considered one. Like,
On
what do you?
Netflix, right?
Can I
Yeah,
take
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, sure.
I think the Black Sabbath of pagan horror films is The Wicker Man. You start
Right.
off with The Wicker Man. Blair Witch Project is another great pagan horror film which you can check out. The Witch is a great pagan horror film. I think there is a little known Hammer horror film, and I love Hammer horror, old 70s British horror films made by Hammer Studios. There is this movie called Blood on Satan's Claw. I would highly recommend that to anyone who wants to check out Wicker Man. So if I can give a musical equivalent, if Wicker Man is Black Sabbath, this is Judas Priest.
Any of you guys remember
Darker,
there was
heavier,
a Norwegian
more
movie?
balanced.
There was a Norwegian movie that was made.
Troll
That was
Hunter.
no, not
No,
Troll
he's
Hunter.
talking about that one with the fawn, right? Something with F.
Ah, right. Or have we
Yeah,
all three forgotten that same movie?
Yeah. I know
Did
what you're
Pants-
talking about. It's about this creature in the woods, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
completely
Troll
forgot
Hunter.
the name.
No,
No,
not
not
Troll
Troll
Hunter.
This is like a proper movie, not a found footage. So these would be my pagan horror film recommendations. Anything which does not involve Christianity or the church is basically pagan horror.
Isn't Midsommar technically like pagan?
Midsommar is a
psychological
pagan
thriller?
horror.
Yeah, Midsommar is like honestly pagan horror.
So then I think
Yeah,
Under
so,
the Shadow will also be considered under that, right? Because it's all on jinns and everything.
I think
horror that you can't
there
see.
has to be some sort of witchcraft involved
yeah,
in
it
some
has to
way,
be
right?
some involvement with the nature.
Druids or something, yeah, with
It
nature.
is like, I mean, like there is no like horror ऐसा है that the opposition the strike that, so they just launched this strike like terror strike of horror. I mean like so jinn वगैरह इसमें है. So I think that think
I don't think
will
that
come under it.
there has to be some involvement with nature. They worship
Okay,
the nature.
okay then it won't come under
So
that. Yeah.
that way, I think Ritual is also decent. There is another one which stars Dan Stevens. I forgot the name of this movie. That was also a great film. It's out on it's on
Right,
Netflix.
it's
one of the most
directed by
violent-
Gareth Edwards from Raid.
directed by Gareth Edwards. It's one of the most violent films available on Netflix.
Yeah, that's totally pagan horror.
Yeah, I completely forgot the name, but that is also another badass. Just type in Dan Stevens Netflix. You'll probably get the name. I completely forgot the name of the film. I apologize, but that is also a fantastic horror film. Moving on, why I brought up Adam Wingard was because this week I also watched Godzilla King of
Apostle.
Monsters.
Apostle. We're talking about Apostle.
Apostle, yes.
Apostle.
Apostle.
Yeah,
So
that's
check out
nice.
Apostle as well. So I rewatched Godzilla King of Monsters. When I watched it for the first time, I was horribly drunk and I fucking hated it. I don't know why I absolutely went in for the human characters and there was no story, I thought, and I absolutely bashed the film. But when I rewatched it again, I absolutely loved it because I just went in for the monsters, and that is just a monster one-on-one Royal Rumble type of a deal. And I absolutely ended up loving it. Arindam, I know you loved King of Monsters too. Let's ask Ishwar, did you watch it? What did you think about it? And after Ishwar, we'll go to Anit.
I'm to be honest, I haven't watched it. The last Godzilla movie I watched was the one before it. I'm not much of a kaiju fan, so the only kaiju movies I've actually watched and enjoyed were Pacific Rim 1, obviously. But beyond the point, I'm not much of a kaiju movie fan. I kind of respect the genre, but personally for me, it's just not for me. I can't find myself, liking it.
Right.
I'd rather watch something with giant robots in space.
Basically, Star Wars. Okay.
I personally love
Gundam.
it. I personally love the movie. I mean, there's so much going on. I mean, you're right. You can't watch movies just based on those philosophies that I want to be invested in those characters and all. You do that over the years. I mean, it's a whole franchisee in itself in any way, and it is a franchisee that has been around for a very long time, from Puppet era. You have to understand that, from Puppet era to where it is now, and it has built up. Even had a Hollywood adaptation, which you might hate, but the scale of that monster was done brilliantly. The VFX in that movie I really love. The
The
1990,
97
Seven
Godzilla.
movie, right? Seven
the
movie was great,
97
right?
movie.
The 97 movie.
Yes, I absolutely dislike that movie for different reasons, but I love the movie just for the monster alone. I mean, they did bring out the elements of making it truly larger than life, correct? And in that respect, what they achieved in this current uh, adaptive avatar, call it, I think they're getting those aspects very right. They're making everything larger than life.
In one of the newer Godzilla movies, they had, I forget if it was Godzilla 2000 or something that came on later. So what they did was they had Godzillas from all the different iterations, and the one from 98 gets killed off first and most horribly.
Yeah.
That just like goes to show that how they treated the property. Also, they desecrated not only Godzilla, they also desecrated Kashmir, which was Adil. I know you
Adil,
might
please
be a
don't get
little.
triggered. This is not Kashmir.
This is not Kashmir, and
Kashmir Led Zeppelin.
yeah. So P Diddy had sampled the song, and it's just terribly, terribly bad.
Is it as bad as what's that fellow's name? Pitbull doing Africa by Toto?
Toto.
Oh yeah, as bad. It's not even meme worthy, man. At least that made for some good memes, right? But the album was quite good. If you remember, we had the cassette for that, Abhishek.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
but
think
the
that was
album
one of
had
the-
Rage Against the Machine, man. I mean,
Jamiroquai.
Yeah, Jamiroquai
it had
too, yeah.
Jamiroquai and all, but it had Rage Against the Machine in a song which was not available in any of their albums. Fucking No Shelter, which was just brilliant, and it had a fantastic cover of Heroes also by the Wallflowers. So
Yeah.
it was a great album. It had Bush and stuff like that. 98 to 2005 ish was some great. They had some great soundtrack albums coming out.
Yeah.
However, coming back to Godzilla King of Monsters, the soundtrack. Okay, there is a song where what's his name from System of a Down? Serge Tankian sings while Metallicalypse plays, and you have like monks chanting in Japanese, and they play a cover of Godzilla, the Blue Oyster Cult song, and it's one of my favorite riffs of all time. That riff can literally move mountains, and you have fucking Gene Hoglan on the drums. All right, and it is like a fantastic end to the movie where they actually show the clippings, and it gives you a fair idea if you know what you're talking about. If you watch these movies for a long time, you know where the story is going. It's basically all the monsters are moving towards Skull Island right now, and Godzilla is gonna make a kind of a biosphere for these monsters, and obviously the one who will stand against him is
Kong.
Kong. And so that's basically how the movie sets up, and I really liked it. I won't say it's like the greatest movie I've watched this year, or it's the best creature flick which I've watched ever, but it is definitely a great time. But if you're going for the human connection and all of that, you're looking at the wrong movie. This is not the movie for that. It's literally King of Monsters. So you have Ghidorah fighting against Godzilla while Mothra is there and Rodan is there. So just go in for the monsters and you'll have a great time. And speaking of good times, I also watched Extraction, which we are going to talk about right now. So Extraction is the latest Netflix original, and of course it's the main event. Right after this, we will be going on to FG Quiz. Extraction, it came out yesterday, and it stars Chris Hemsworth, Rudraksh Jaiswal, some guy, Randeep Hooda, Priyanshu Penyuli, I don't know who the fuck these people are, Golshifteh Farhani, Suraj Rikarne, David Harbour, and Adam Bessa. So basically the plot is Tyler Rake. He's a black market mercenary who has nothing left to lose. So basically he's contracted by this Indian gangster who is in jail and played by Pankaj Tripathi, who makes a 30-second appearance, and he hires this guy to go out and rescue his son who has been kidnapped by this Bangladeshi gangster from Bombay. So that's basically the plot. I have a lot of thoughts about this film. There are stuff which are genuinely good, but a lot of stuff which I did not enjoy. Let's start with you, Ishwar. Did you watch Extraction?
Yeah,
And
I
what
I
did
watched it last night. I had to say, okay. So the first thing that struck my mind was when I watched the poster, when I saw the poster from the visionary directors of Avengers Endgame. I laughed my ass off for a couple of seconds, but then I started watching the movie. It was basically okay. So given that we've actually watched all of these characters at some point or another as some kind of a superhero iteration, it's basically Thor trying to save a kid and gets screwed over by Hellboy. That's basically my movie. And that was how I processed the entire movie. Thor saves kid, gets screwed over by Hellboy, and something happens, and that ending. I mean, yeah. I mean, it was fun. The action choreography was fantastic. I've never seen Thor do hand-to-hand combat like that. But otherwise, it was a fun, action film. But otherwise, the plot points kind of went over my head. Some of the action sequences, obviously, as is the case, you have to have this willing suspension of disbelief. I kind of had to stomach it when trucks and cars collided with actual human bodies, but otherwise it was good fun.
we'll get into the plot details in a bit.
Yeah.
Adil, what did you think of Extraction? Your initial thoughts?
The initial thoughts is like, the trailer said it's like pure action movie. There's nothing else. Like you said, Godzilla kind of thing. There's no human connection. Like you go in for the monsters. Extraction is the same thing. You just go in for the action. That's it. Story
I think
plot
that's a.
side mein
I
chhod
think you
do.
can't. I think you can't compare action movies with monster movies.
No.
And I will get
I'm
into
just
it.
saying
I'll
that.
get into it why in a bit. But
So like,
continue.
story wise, there's nothing to do. I mean, characters are just there to either die or just to do some random hand to hand
Or to
combat.
kill.
That's it. Or to kill. That's it. Or just get killed. That's it. I mean, there's nothing more to it. Just watch it once and. I think there's no point in complaining because you exactly know what you're getting into. I mean, read the trailers, read the non-spoiler reviews or whatever you call it. I mean, there's nothing to it. Just watch it and get over with it, man. That's it. For a bad day, just go watch some other movie after that. That's it. I mean, it's just simple as that.
Number one. Let's get this straight. There's nothing to spoil. There is nothing.
Exactly. There is no story.
You
It's
can
like,
read the whole Wikipedia article written in detail by some idiot who has dedicated like half an hour to 1 hour to write a very eloquent piece of description, but it will still not take away from the viewing experience because that's not what you're going in for. The story is not what you are going in for. And I said this last week that if I'm going to watch it, I'm not too excited about it. And if I'm going to watch it, I'm going to watch it like I watch a Rohit Shetty movie. दिमाग बाहर रख के. And मैं Rohit Shetty movie देखता नहीं हूँ, by the way. I don't watch it. Please don't think that I do that on a regular experience. But the first one that I watched was in Bangalore, by the way. Abhishek, shout out. Just because it's in Bangalore. The point is that the action is truly phenomenal in some places. I mean, it's just not just the hand-to-hand, the way I do like gun violence. I do like gun violence when it's more realistic. It should not be unrealistic. That's why I really like Equilibrium. Well, it was a little unrealistic, but it was still good gun violence, gun violence, martial arts, and all that stuff. It's just definitely a movie that you should watch. But in this case, the action is truly, truly phenomenal and stuff. Some scenes, which is why I think that you should watch it for the action movie
action
that it is,
alone. Yes.
and that's actually it. And your logic, Abhishek, that you can't compare it to monster movies, I don't think that applies, man. दिमाग बाहर रख के अगर देखना ही है तो it applies to all genres, whether it's that or biopics or whatever. I personally hate biopics, so
He's put himself on mute.
yeah, of course he has. He'll explain himself in a while when his turn comes. But I genuinely think that it's a one-time watch. You can definitely enjoy it a lot for the action. But if you're expecting anything else, you will be sorely disappointed. And one thing that I really, really disliked about this movie was the fucking ending. It is what actually just destroys the entire movie. I watched that and I was like, damn it, This
Anand,
is
I have an
not the way it should
interesting point about that. I'll come to that later. Just the ending. Let's save it for that.
Yes, I know what you're going to speak about, but of course. So as you can see, there are three very neutral people. One not on the fence. Well, two people definitely not on the fence on either side of the fence. And interestingly enough, both of them are brothers. One definitely thinks this is the one of the worst piece of shit movies to come out yesterday. One doesn't quite agree. Arindam, I think you are on the positive side of that thing. So, what do you do?
Yeah,
Enlighten us
I'm
why.
always on the positive side. Yeah, let everyone get their venom out because I'm a positive person and this is a positive, like, because, there's so much death and destruction in the world already. Like, the president of the United States is asking people to inject themselves with Lysol. So, yeah, we are kind of podcast which tries to put more positive energy into this world. So, I'll go in last. Abhishek.
What the fuck? Okay. So suddenly it turned into a fucking art of living podcast. Like anyway, so the scene is this. Okay, if you watch the trailer for the film, that is the film. That is the extent of the film. I'm not saying that there are things which you can't enjoy, but then again, if you give it enough rope, you can enjoy anything basically. But I love action films, and I'm a huge fan. If you've known me on the group also, I have like very strong thoughts on when it comes to action films, and I like my action films which have a little bit of character work, because I grew up watching 80s and 70s action films, and these films, especially the 80s ones, were known for great character work. Here there is none. You don't care about anyone. You don't know anything about these characters till in one stilted speech which Tyler Rake, or whatever the fuck his name is, he gives. Barring that, there is nothing which builds up to this character. And you're talking about like you can't compare it to monster movies and all. Here is one example. Okay, one of the most generic action films which is awesome just by the performance and just because of the character. That's Commando. What do you know about John Matrix? You know exactly what he is within the first 5 minutes of that movie. There is nothing which goes on into exponential depth about his character and all. Do you know why you should care about this guy within the first 5 minutes of that? That is what separates action movies which are made now to the ones which were made in the 80s and the 90s.
Okay, character
Look at
work.
John
If
Wick.
we talk about character work, let's go back to that era itself and let's take Rambo. Rambo first movie, let's keep that aside. Can you explain to me the character work that has gone into those Rambo movies? Because I don't see any.
You can't say you discount the first movie and then uske baad se dekho. You can't do that. That is the first movie. Whatever has been established about Rambo has been established there.
No, but Rambo
But
1
they
and
are
Rambo
different
3,
characters.
they
Very
are on
different
different
characters.
sides of the fence.
And they are not the same character. You take first Rambo. The Rambo who was in First Blood is not the same one when he was in Afghanistan or even in Vietnam. Not the same character at all.
That is not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that if you are establishing a character in like a particular film, like you established John Matrix in Commando, you know exactly what you have to know about this guy from the very first 5 minutes. Now bring that to this movie, which is basically trying to be a commando. If you look at the story and everything, it is basically trying to be commando, right? Made for the modern times. This is basically it. That is the feeling I got from the trailer also. That this movie is trying to be the commando for 2020. But however, it fails because it doesn't have that. One of the most important parts of every great action film, and this right from the James Bond film, the proto action films of the 60s, like James Bond and all of that, right to the 70s when you had the French Connection, and to the 80s when you had your Arnold flicks, and to the 90s when you had your Keanu Reeves and stuff like that, are great side characters. You always have to have interesting side characters. You always want to have these people you want to watch, who you want to hang out with, or actually want to know better. Why do you think Scaramanga, who is one of the worst James Bond films ever, is one of the most iconic villains of all time? Because he is a fantastic villain. Out here, there are no fucking villains. Who is this Bangladeshi Chut, man? I don't give a fuck about this Chut here.
Hey, low cost Escobar hai bhai.
Low cost Escobar.
And that is not the point of this. Again, you are.
What is the point of this? This is a fucking review. I'm telling you. No?
Yeah, you're talking about putting in character work and all that, and I'm saying is that it's not necessary because I watched it for the action. I could have seen all of these clips on YouTube and I would have been equally satisfied, is what I'm saying.
No, but
I'm
if I
not
have to,
saying
but
that
I
it's a
can't
good
separate.
movie.
I like for me personally, I cannot separate action from character work. If it is a movie, if it's a long narrative, there has to be character works because the movie
But you
screeches to a
do.
halt
But you
when
do.
what's his name, Chris Hemsworth is not getting hit. The movie screeches to a halt whenever there is a quiet moment. The movie completely stops.
You know why
When
I'm a little happy? Because last week Anir said that action sequences don't carry a movie, and now he's defending it.
I
That's
have
exactly
to.
what happened.
Yeah.
that's basically what I'm trying to say because this movie stops every
True.
time there was like you know every time the action stopped there was literally nothing going on. Who gives a shit what happened to this guy? This was like I'll give you an example. Okay, you remember Indiana Jones 4
Yeah,
where
unfortunately.
Ray Winston and Indiana Jones talk about some shit which happened in the past. That was the movie you were more interested in. I was more interested in what happened between David Harbour and this fucking guy where he saved his life. That was the movie I wanted
Yeah.
to watch rather than this inept piece of shit. Okay, the 11-minute long talk, like fake long take, that was fine. Okay, that was kinetic action. There were some issues which it was fine. It was great. No complaints. Fine, you can watch that. After that, that was the main event, dude. The final scene geography just blew my mind. How big is this bridge? Why can't he get from one part to the other? How big is this? He needs fucking the Rainbow Bridge or what now? Like he can't cross, and then where was this job? Just the logic of behind that film, dude. I mean, I'll get into it later. Arindam, what did you make of it, and why do you like it so much?
See, it's again, I did not say that I liked it so much. Read all my comments that I've said so far. I don't know why everyone is assuming that I really love this movie and this is like the be all end all of things. Okay, so where I saw this video once on, like it was a video essay in which they said that if you're going to watch a biopic, always think of the movie Walk Hard. Like what are the things that they do there? Like the things that they do in the movie Walk Hard are something that should not be repeated uh, while you're watching a biopic. If that
Yeah, Patrick
movie,
Williams.
yeah, so if they're doing things like that, that means that the movie has failed as a biopic because it's telling you the same story that you have already seen like 1,000 times. So when in right almost during the last maybe 15 minutes, when there was that over dramatic scene that was taking place in the bridge, Chris Hemsworth is getting shot, and it was like slow mo to make Zack Snyder come. So when that was taking place, all I could think about was this is exactly what they do in Tropic Thunder when uh, Ben Stiller falls down on his knees and they have the music going on.
Yeah, with that.
Yeah, Platoon.
Yeah,
Platoon.
yeah, yeah. When they made fun of the platoon thing in Tropic Thunder, so this is exactly what they were doing. This movie follows every bad cliche that is there in action movies that you can think of. There's not one redeeming factor in those, like when they pull the cliches, especially when you have writers like I thought some weird guy wrote it, but it was the Russos. The Russos, they write well. I mean, like, look at the television stuff that they have done. They are good writers, but they should have written to the strength of the director. The director is a stuntman, and I think it showed because when people are criticizing the action scenes, they do not see the camera placement in those. Remember that shot in which the guy hits the head and falls on bricks? Someone who is not an action movie, who's not into stunts, wouldn't be placing the camera that way. You could exactly feel when that guy hits his back on that brick, which is laying down there below. Like you can miss these things, but there are those placements in which which make for the maximum impact. That is why the sound design I thought was fantastic for this movie. My wife, she literally said that she wanted to puke during that first scene in which, all that rake stuff is happening because it felt so visible. I think those things were good, and it was the fault of the script. I would say the screenplay was really bad for this one. It did not take advantage of because it's a first-time director is doing so. You should have written it to his advantage, and this is a close-knit group. It was directed by Hemsworth. It's produced by the guy. who was the stunt, was a stuntman for
You're
Chris
talking
Evans
about
and Chris Hemsworth.
it was
Talking about the
directed
director.
by the stunt coordinator, produced by
Correct.
Hemsworth.
It was no. I'm saying that produced and acted. I'm just saying that they're a tight knit group, so they know each other. It's not like they don't know who is going to direct it. They had that in mind.
Okay, I have two questions for you. One is directed towards you, and one is for everyone. The second bit can be a rhetorical question, but whatever. The first question towards you is: I agree the first bit of the movie which was shot, because this is a movie, mind you, it is in production since Endgame. Since Endgame wrapped up, Hemsworth went and made this movie. So I think that there has been a gap in the production of this film, right? Which is why, like, the first 20 minutes look awesome, and then it looks like a disposable garbage, right? So my question to you is: why is it that the first 20 minutes, by your own admission, you can feel every punch, and then the scene geography is garbage?
I'm not really sure if I don't think the scene geography was garbage to say, but I think it peaks too early. The movie peaks really. It should have been cut down. There were parts, the David Harbour part certainly. It's just there because maybe David Harbour was a friend and he wanted to be in the movie. You take that part of the movie out, like it's the same. It doesn't really matter. Also, this movie shows us how good an actor Randeep Hooda is, because more than Chris Hemsworth, I was rooting for his character. Obviously, you get to know more about his character, but this guy, he really nailed the role. Like, he was really good at it. It showed, like, his intensity was right up there. Chris Hemsworth just sleepwalked through this role. I did not like his performance at all. I thought he was the
Chris
weakest
Hemsworth
part.
hasn't been good in anything since, I think, Avengers.
I disagree.
Infinity War. I don't think he's been good in anything.
That
I'm
may
not
be
a
that.
huge fan of his.
Also,
Anyway,
it was.
my second question is: this has been scripted by Joe Russo, right? Do you think that if it was not Joe Russo, anyone could have made this film? Because this is the Netflix. This is what I was coming at when you guys were talking about the other Netflix films. Netflix Originals has this policy where they take a first time or a second time scriptwriter or a first time or second time director, and they throw a star at them or something like that, and they make a movie. That is probably what most of the time why Netflix Originals don't work. So if it was some other guy, and he came up with this script, I don't think this movie would have gone past the pre-production stage. It was just because it was Joe Russo, I think this movie was made, and because these guys made the biggest film in the history of films, probably that's the only reason why this movie was made.
I don't
Otherwise,
think
this
the
movie
Russos will ever hear the word no going into any production office, like ever.
Yeah.
That is something.
People have said the same about people like, I don't know, man. You never know. You never know about these things.
Okay, I'd like to ask this to all of you. How did you feel about the portrayal of Bangladesh in this movie?
It felt like an Indian Mexico or a subcontinent Mexico.
That's what you said last time, right, Arindam?
Yeah.
Because this is supposed to be Mexico. This fucking story is set in Mexico. It was called Ciudad. It's based on some graphic novel, which Manoj pointed out on the group today. It's supposed to be Mexico, and Arindam actually joked last time that this looks like India's version or subcontinent's version of Mexico with the yellow filter on. It is supposed to be that. There is a fucking Day of the Dead celebration in this goddamn film. What is the production designer doing? Like, where is the research? That is literally like.
I thought it was quite brave of them to have them speak their own language. Like, especially the first 10-15 minutes of the movie, it's totally in Hindi. When they go back there, it's totally in Bangla.
I don't think
that's
that guy who plays the.
Yeah, it's not like full on.
Yeah, he wasn't Bengali. That guy was the worst guy. He had the worst accent. It had that second-hand accent, because you see that in Bengali movies when they bring on non-Bengali actors, they have this very weird accent that you can instantly see that this guy is in Bengali. So that was happening. Also, some people are pointing out that Hindi gana itna kyun baj raha hai? Dude, Hindi songs are this famous in Bangladesh. Like,
my problem is not with Hindi songs. It was only with the fact that they were all Kumar Sanu songs.
Yeah, itna famous hai bhai. It's like any Indian barbershop that you walk into the Northeast.
Which is true.
Kumar Sanu ka gana kafi famous hai wahan bhi.
Kumar Sanu is legendary.
We literally call it saloon music, man.
Yeah.
Kumar Sanu is legendary, especially in West Bengal, right?
It's bordering Bangladesh, right? So every second saloon or butcher shop you go to is owned by a Bangladeshi. They keep on playing this kind of music only. So the music is not a problem. The problem was
That is quite legit.
the problem was the portrayal, which was kind of cringy, man. It was like very cliched, and all of these actors were wasted, including Chris Hemsworth.
Every Bangladeshi is a bad guy. There's like one redeeming, like not one character, but even the kids.
I think he had gone to for a lunch break or some shit because he's shooting Mirzapur. I don't know when Mirzapur will come out. Fucking coronavirus, 2-3 wave खत्म हो जाएगा. Mother chod Mirzapur नहीं आएगा. But I think he's still busy with Mirzapur. I think he was on a break or some shit. He was just there. He was dressed as Akhandanand Tripathi there also. Like every fucking thing about this movie, and I think Anshuman yesterday pointed out on the group that this was a terrible movie. I retorted with saying, no, it was fine. Then I went to the loo, I came back and I was watching the ceiling and I was thinking about this movie. And the more I thought, this has happened to me once before and this was during VBS. But let's not get into that. I thought about it. The more I started hating this film, I was like, nothing makes sense here.
You know what didn't make sense to me? Why did Randeep Hooda make a heel turn? And then I thought of it, okay, they do make clear that, these guys, they didn't have money to pay off the mercenary. Yeah, so that was a little...
Like the plan only is garbage.
Yeah, like, it's a total garbage plan.
Congress ka election agenda makes more sense than this bullshit. Basically, kya bolta hai wo log? They say we'll hire one Australian guy to go and pick this kid up. And we'll give them half the money. Fine. आधा पैसा तो डूब गया ना. अगर तुमको फोकट में लेना था, so why don't you send Randeep Hooda? Then they bring in that common sense. Chris Hemsworth will take out everyone, and we can extract the kid that way. If that is the case, why the fuck are you having Randeep Hooda attack him in the first place?
Maybe you wanted to kill him
together. That didn't make sense. That, like I said, weak screenplay, weak story. And suddenly they realize that okay, Randeep Hooda is on our side.
I think Ishwar is completely confused. See, for instance, Ishwar, I hire you to kill Adil.
Okay.
But to kill Adil, no. I also tell what's his face, Arindam, to go and kill Adil. But Arindam, I haven't paid money.
Right.
Okay. To rescue Adil. But you also have to go and rescue him. Why the fuck would you want to kill Arindam, dude?
Oh, my friend kept on asking that question, like, by ho kya raha hai? Like, why are two people doing the same job?
No, I'm trying to figure out, maybe he wanted to kill Hemsworth off so that he wouldn't have to pay him the rest of the money or something like that.
But they were not paying.
He didn't have the money in the first place because all the assets were frozen. That's what it's very confusing storytelling. And
go to the comment section, see what the people have to say.
Yeah, it's all in, For the Love of Comics points out that it was Paraguay, not Mexico. And also
South America sub same.
Yeah.
Except for Brazil. Brazil is different.
So, okay, I'll talk about what I liked about this movie because it has been a hate fest till now. I think the casting was done pretty well except for the main Bangladeshi baddie. I don't know why, for the love of God, they couldn't hire an actress from Bangladesh or even just get Bumba Da yaar. He would be perfect. Like Bengali actor hai, Prasenjit would be perfect on this role. Like he would ham it up.
Prasenjit doesn't do Netflix. Prasenjit only does matinee.
So Prasenjit would be good in that role. I think chalta tha wo kafi. Other than that, what I liked was the hand-to-hand combat, man. Especially that scene from the cars, the shifting of these are things that you've already watched in Raid 2. Okay, this is just like a remix of that. It's nothing new, but it was done really well.
My issue was with the trucks and the cars banging bodies and shit.
Dude, fuck! I thought that guy died, man. When he gets hit with a truck and he doesn't.
Both of them do. In the span of 2 minutes, Randeep Hooda gets hit twice. Once by a car. Chris Hemsworth gets hit.
Hemsworth gets hit with a car.
The truck scene, that was very bad VFX though. I thought
the truck crashing and burning, right?
Yeah.
That
truck burning is different. When it hit Hooda, that and him flying is so fake that you see and you're like, there's something wrong.
That was funny. I don't know if you guys will like it or not. It was funny. I found it funny.
I mean, they're going in for this whole.
And all that happens is like one nose break. Okay, nothing else break.
Yeah.
One scene which I really liked was this dude, man. Him bitch slapping these Bengali kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is
That
probably my
scene was
favorite.
cathartic because I know these kind of people, okay? And he was like, bat, karke, one jab.
That scene was choreographed
Going
beautifully
flying,
because
dude.
kids were there, na. So that scene was
Goonies
like
from hell.
beautiful.
I thought I was
Maro,
back. Chala, I thought I was back in Agartala. So much boka choda going on in that scene.
That kid was so irritating. The guy who couldn't load his gun, and then the way he
dude,
gives
he
him
gets
some
hit
whack.
with the door of a car, man.
Yeah,
He gets slammed into the door of a car. That was like some of the best. Like I almost, if I was in the theater, I would have cheered, and I would have
other than
probably
that, I
glared
think
at the
you
child
know
beside me.
there's things that we say about cult movies in which they when they come out they aren't received well, but you go back a couple of you go after a couple of years and then you suddenly remember, oh yeah, I used to like this movie. I don't think this will happen now because the content that's coming out at this rate, the shelf life of movies has reduced like anything. So, but I still do believe that this movie has everything to has the potential to be a cult hit. People will
No,
come
but then
back to
again,
it.
cult movies. There is one thing about cult movies is that there are there are things which are very unique about all cult movies. Like no other movies have that. Or no other movies do it as well as that cult movie. Like for instance, Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 is
Evil Dead is like universally acclaimed also. It's one of the all-time greatest
now
horror
it's
movies.
universally acclaimed. Back in
But
the
I'm
90s,
talking about movies like Running Scared and Shoot 'Em Up. So these kind of movies, like they Boondock Saints, take that. Like,
yeah, but
and these movies.
Boondock Saints has some amazing choreography. This movie, I don't think, barring that first 11 minutes, I don't think it does. It has that.
I think just for that, people might just come back. Of course, there's YouTube now that For the Love of Comics mentions that there should be a classification of wait for YouTube clips. Like people might just go back and check the YouTube clip for that entire scene. Of course, Netflix will upload it within next month maybe. So that reduces the shelf life and which might prevent it from becoming a cult hit later on. But I totally believe that this has all the ingredients needed for it to become a cult movie, cult hit later on. That's
Okay,
my take.
final thoughts. This is one of the first movies that we have reviewed with as the podcast has come back.
I have one
You guys
last
have like
point.
a rating scale in which we should do it. Let's do it live.
I think A to E should do. Can I just have one more point that Anir had brought up earlier regarding the ending? So I have this pitch that I came up with. I shared it on the Facebook group also. I'll just share it here live and I'll make some things up along the way. So in the last scene, we see that Ovi, he goes down to the swimming pool. He comes up and there's a figure,
Yeah.
right? And we are not really sure if that's Hemsworth or if it's not. It's that typical totem ending. So what happens right after that is this is my pitch for the sequel. So he comes up and then he turns around and there's no one. So he goes to school, he goes to sleep, there's a chair, he suddenly notices there might be someone sitting, he turns that way, there is nobody over there. He goes to his father. He says that, I think I'm being haunted by this Tyler Rake guy. So like what should I do? And his father is Pankaj Tripathi is still in jail. He's like, itna kuch to karne ka hai. So I really don't have time for this shit. I have a twin brother who is a paralogist, who is in this place called Chanderi in Madhya Pradesh.
Oh,
And
for fuck's sake.
he has recently done shit like this. He deals with paranormal activities. So I think I should send you there. He goes over there. So if you guys aren't familiar with Chanderi, it was featured in this movie called Stree, which starred Shraddha Kapoor, Rajkumar Rao, and Pankaj Tripathi as a paralogist. So these guys, they are a makeshift Ghostbusters kind of thing. So they come to the conclusion that Tyler Rake, when he fell down, because he had done some evil deeds in his life, and as a final act, he was saving someone, he is stuck in limbo. So these a group of paranormal, these Ghostbusters basically, they need to go that river that he fell into. That also became a sort of the river of the dead, and then they need to get back Chris Hemsworth's soul back. And the movie is called Extraction 2 Afterlife. Thank you very much.
I have
Written and
a
directed
I have
by-
a counter pitch. Can I pitch my counter pitch with this?
Yeah, sure. Since you're doing
Okay.
it.
Yeah, since you're doing it, might as well. So basically, what happens is I will stick with your familiar premise. Okay. So this dude is being haunted. He sees this guy everywhere, and at this time he's also continuing with his life. He's studying and all of that. So he goes abroad. Okay, he goes to New York to study, and as he goes into New York, he starts dating this girl, and he tells him he tells this girl, this and that. I am seeing these things and all of that. So he was like, yeah, one of my aunts used to work as a paranormal researcher back in in the early 2000s and stuff. So he goes there and he talks to her, and
She's
He says,
Whoopi
yeah.
Goldberg.
Oh yeah, I thought so.
She's Whoopi
you
Goldberg,
guys
isn't she?
have zero patience and also zero patience. So he says, I have this uncle of mine who is basically this aunt of mine who used to work with these women, and they were kind of paranormal researchers and stuff like that. Why don't you go and talk to them? So he goes, and
Ghostbusters
then
too.
this woman shows a picture of Tyler Rake, and he was like, yeah, this guy used to be a receptionist.
I knew it.
Where is he now? He was like, no, this guy was a mercenary. He was like, yeah, after some incident in 2016 in New York, you guys, we kind of kept it on a down low. He went on a hiatus, and he, like, I don't know what happened to him. He probably trained because something in him changed. So they go back to Bangladesh, and basically it's the Ghostbusters going to Bangladesh to get the soul, to give this guy eternal peace. However, as they deep dive into the river, they find that it's covered in sludge. So basically, Tyler Rake right now is Slimer. Okay.
This episode was in Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah. I'm pitching Ghostbusters 2.
So
Return of
what's the
Slimer.
Men in Black 3 pitch? Or Men in Black 4 at this rate?
Okay, so I think
I know. Arindam, you can counter pitch, not counter
Terrible
pitch,
movie.
from where I am.
terrible.
So
Terrible.
as
Mine
this
was so
movie-
much better.
As they come out,
No, both of yours were terrible.
no, because I just came up with it.
Okay, I think let's have a final
No,
ratings and then we'll
terrible.
get on with FG quiz.
Yeah.
So let's scale it from A to E. A for best, 5 stars. E would make it, or just have
A,
stars.
B, best,
Or
and
we could just say recommended or non-recommended.
Okay, I'll start off with the rating itself. I'll give it a B minus. I think it's a good one-time watch with potential. So if you want if you have watched Raid already and you want to watch a decent cover version, I think you should go for it. What about you?
I'll go next.
Yeah.
I'll go next. I would give it a D. It's an absolute failure of character work. It's barring a couple of decent action sequences. It's a complete waste of time. Don't go for it. It's a complete failure. If you're a fan of any of these actors who are a part of this. Anirban.
I'll give it a C. I'll give it a C minus. No, a
C minus बोल तो भाई मैं भी C minus ही बोलने वाला था.
C minus is like it's a middle of the road movie. You watch it, ठीक है, you'll enjoy the actions. You don't watch it, you're not missing out on
anything. Yes, exactly same.
Same as me then. It's a C from me. Like I'm bang in the middle. It's not a C minus. It's not a C plus. It's a C. Perfectly balanced as all things should be.
There you go. It's a fairly middling to bad movie. So you can make up your mind. If you really want to watch it for the action scenes, do it. But like Abhishek said, don't watch it for the screenplay, story, or the characters.
Recommended with caution.
Not recommended at all, but it's on Netflix and people have a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah.
Okay, it's about time for our main event. I would hand it over to the quizmaster, Arindam. Arindam, if you can get everyone online, people who are participating. We have 2 new participants this week. Sarthak, who is the last year's, the last FG Quizzes champion. He is
Nepali master.
with Anshuman. I think Anshuman is the current champion, is it? Or is it still Sarthak?
I think it's Sarthak. Sarthak won both.
Sarthak won both editions of the FG quiz in the groups. I think Anshuman gave him a tough competition last year also and this year too. Ishwar, in fact, came the closest last year within 1 point. So we have the top 3 contestants from FG quiz on Film Geeks, the Film Geeks group on the podcast, and let's see where it goes. Arindam, over to you.
Yeah. Sarthak, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You're audible. So we're just waiting for Anshuman to send us a request. So just tell us. I think he's online already. Tell us if you liked or didn't like Extraction by the time we get to the show.
I was listening to you guys, and I'm somewhere in the middle. I think the action is not great. There's that 10-minute sequence which is made to be one shot, but it's clearly not. But it's okay. That was good. I was like, okay, this is fine. But this is like the typical Netflix movie. 10 minutes you're on it, 10 minutes you're on your phone, and that's what it was for me. So it's okay. I didn't hate it. I get what he's saying about character work and all, but I mean we knew going in that that's not what it's going to be, right? So I don't know. It was okay. I think C, whatever you guys are saying, C minus is fair. But that kid gets an F minus. He can't act.
Terrible actor.
I don't get what he's doing, man. There's one scene where they're bonding and shit, right? And he has become kid exposition dump. He's asking, your son died? How old was he? How do you feel about that? I'm like, what is going on, man? Yeah, that was not good.
Quickly start off with the rules. So it's pretty simple. There will be 10 questions asked. You need to write down the answer. You'll get 15 seconds to write. When I say pens down, please do not, write anymore.
Yeah.
And okay, Abhishek is showing that his screen, like whatever he's writing on, is legible. So after that, you'll be awarded 1 point each. If there's a tiebreaker at the end, we'll figure out then. Yeah, this works fine.
Is this cool? Okay.
This works fine.
This should be okay, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we get it, nerds. Flex mental.
Perfect. See, this is what I actually wanted. I asked everyone to get a whiteboard with markers.
I got one. Remember?
Yeah.
Anir's
Anshuman's
one.
Yeah, Anir's one filled the entire background, like that entire.
Anirban, you might as well remove your background.
Because last time we couldn't see anything.
तेरा background बहुत चुतिया है.
Hey, चुतिया नहीं है.
No, in the sense like, no, remove the background altogether.
Arey, I'm trying to wait. I am trying to.
Okay, so everyone clear with the rules?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I'll ask everyone, just like, put your answer to the screen and say it out loud. And in case your answer isn't written, it doesn't count. Please remember that, because you could have just heard it from someone else. Okay, I'll start with the timer. 15 seconds on the clock. Your first question is, who directed the movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon? And your time starts now. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, who directed the movie? So 8 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll start with you, Abhishek. Words, please. Yeah, say it out. Angli, right?
Can we show it?
Yeah, show it, please. Angli, Anir. Angli. Okay, I think everyone gets a point on this one, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that was easy one. Now we have the next question. Okay. The next question is, Drew Barrymore goes undercover in a high school in which movie?
In a high school.
Drew Barrymore goes undercover in a high school in which movie? Your time starts now.
Yeah.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Abhishek. Correct. It's Never Been Kissed. Anir.
I was thinking more along the lines of
I went with
Charlie's Angel.
Oh, Sarthak doesn't get it either.
Charlie's Angel.
Adil, say out the
same
word.
thing what Abhishek had said.
Show me.
अरे वो type कर रहा हूँ तो it's showing that in
Cheating कर रहा है,
reverse. I'm
cheating
just
कर रहा
like,
है, cheating कर रहा है.
No, it
Cheating.
doesn't count. Adil, like I said, it doesn't count if you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
any.
yeah. Fine. No point.
I'm
No
sorry.
point. Chalega.
By the way, Charlie's
Anshuman,
Angel
also,
is a
please.
good answer, I think. Charlie's Angel, she does
How is
go.
this? Yes, I figured.
No, but not
I-
in a high school. I don't think.
Oh, she does, no? Not as a student, but as a teacher.
No, but that is the basic premise. You can't put in. Anshuman, your answer, please. Please say out your answer as well. Yeah, never mean kiss. It's correct.
Dude, ask everyone to point out the screens as soon as the 15
Same
seconds
time.
are done. Asking one by one.
No. The problem will be anyone can see it, right? Because it's a video chat. Ishwar, you had got this correct, right? Yeah, correct. Okay. So the next question, third one is, who plays the role of John Connor in the movie Terminator Genesis?
Ay,
Genesis.
Terminator Genesis.
John Connor?
In the movie Terminator Genesis.
Okay.
My God,
Fuck, I forgot this guy's name, dude.
yeah.
4, 3,
Oh my
2,
God.
1. Pens down.
Got
No,
it.
no more writing. No more writing.
Array, it's okay.
Yeah,
I'm
answers.
writing.
Answers.
Answers?
Forgot the
Abhishek.
guy's name. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Forgot.
it's Jason
Okay.
Clark. Who got Jason Clark?
I didn't.
Sarthak, did you get that?
I forgot his name.
Okay, Sarthak didn't get that. Anshuman?
That guy
No.
from Animal Kingdom.
Okay, so Ishwar is the only one who gets the point. Next question. I was surprised that this was brought up in the podcast today. In the movie Equilibrium, name the martial art that's practiced by the Grammaton cleric.
I knew it. I knew it.
In the
This is
movie
what asked.
Equilibrium, name the martial art that is practiced by the Grammaton clerics. Time starts now.
Just a guess.
What's that martial art called? And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pens down. Let's start with you, Anshuman. Do you have it?
Kata?
Ankata?
Yeah, it is gun kata.
Done.
Sarthak gets it. Anshuman gets it. Abhishek. Gun kata. Ishwar gets it. I can't see Abhishek's screen.
Hero
Got it, got it.
Kankata. I
Okay. Okay, everyone gets a point.
Practiced by the immortal Iron Fists.
Cool. So the next question is, this is a Pixar movie quote. Congratulations, San Francisco, you've ruined pizza. Which movie do you hear that quote in? It's a Pixar movie. Congratulations, San Francisco, you've ruined pizza. And your time starts now.
Got it.
I think so. I'm not sure.
It's a Pixar movie. Just take a wild guess. And 5,
I've
4,
got I hope this is a good.
2, 1. Pens down.
Yeah.
It's Inside Out. Sarthak, that's correct. Inside Out, Inside Out, Inside Out. Yes. Anil?
Nope, don't get it right.
Okay. Anil does not get this. Okay. And the sixth question. Which Oscar winner's first leading role was in the next Karate Kid?
Okay.
Which Oscar winner's first leading role was in the next Karate Kid?
Okay.
Time starts now.
That song was there, Peter Cetera. Or was it Karate Kid 2? I think it was Karate Kid 2, Glory of Love. Has no one watched Karate Kid 2?
No, that's from Karate Kid 2.
That's what Karate Kid 2,
3,
right?
2,
Wait,
1.
wait.
Yeah.
The Joe Esposito song?
Okay. Answers, please. Hilary Swank is the right answer.
Oh, I didn't get the question.
Adil,
No.
hey, that doesn't count. Adil didn't get it. So Adil and Anil do not get this. Okay. So down to the seventh question of the day. Who voices Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099 in Into the Spider-Verse? Name the actor who voices Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099 in Into the Spider-Verse. Time starts now.
Nahi pata. Pass.
And 5, 4,
Wild guess.
3, 2, 1. Answers, please. Who has it?
I went
Yep.
with K. So that's okay.
Oscar Isaac is the correct answer.
Was
So,
that
Ishwar,
post-credit scene or something?
Yeah, it was in the post-credit scene.
Post-credit scene.
Okay.
So Abhishek and Ishwar get this, right?
What's it? Me, Anshuman, and Ishwar.
No,
Anshuman didn't get it.
Not me.
Anshuman didn't get it. Okay. Another superhero movie question. Who plays Shazam in the movie Shazam? Name the actor who plays Shazam in the movie Shazam.
Okay.
Time starts now.
Oh, yeah. Fuck. God damn it. I know.
This is another Jason Clarke situation.
And 3, 2, 1. Pens down. Show me the answer.
Answers?
It's Zachary Levi. Zachary Levi.
Oh,
Zachary
you
Levi.
all got it. I only got
Zach Levi.
whoever played Chuck.
Zach
Okay.
Levi, right?
Yeah, it's Zachary
Yeah.
Levi. Okay. So, horror movies. Who is the first person that Michael Myers kills in Halloween? Who is the first person that Michael Myers kills in the movie Halloween? To make
Which
it
Halloween? 78 or
Halloween.
2008?
Halloween Part 1.
Wild guess, but okay.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pens down. Answer, please.
Can I just say it loud?
Yeah, say it loud.
Salman Khan. Judith, his sister.
Correct. Ishwar gets it.
Yeah.
Anshuman, do you have it?
No, I got wrong.
Okay, so Adil and
But
Abhishek
it
get a
wasn't
point.
Salman Khan.
Bomb.
It wasn't Salman Khan, unfortunately. Okay, and I think it's the last question for today. Name the actor who has played Dracula more times in film than any other actor. Name the actor who has played Dracula more times in film than any other actor. Time starts now.
Got it.
5,
So
Four.
smug he is.
3, 2, 1. And pens down. Answer, please.
Oh, it's Lugosi or is it Lee?
It is Christopher Lee,
Damn it.
Good
Not
answer.
Vincent Price?
not Vincent Price.
Not Vincent Price.
Vincent Price played Igor, I think, most number of times.
It was in like 8 or 9 movies. They made a whole bunch of them, no?
Good answer.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I
that was
think,
like
okay, who got the answers? It was too fast.
I got. Christopher Lee.
Only one person got.
No, Sarthak got as well.
Two.
So,
Sarthak got it, Abhishek got it. So let me just tally up the points really quickly.
Yeah, don't do it like last week where you gave me one less.
Yeah. Abhishek has 9. Today I have it all charted. Anil has 1, 2, 2. Adil has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anshuman has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sarthak has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ishwar has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8.
And still, the reigning, defending
By
champion
1 point.
of the Film Geeks quiz.
hey, all
You're
this
not-
proves is that I am horrible at this. Okay, all this proves is that I'm horrible at remembering names.
I think he looks more like Will Ferrell than not Will Ferrell. What's his name? John C. Reilly,
Oh yeah.
a younger John C. Reilly,
Better looking John C. Reilly.
a better looking John C. Reilly.
Didn't he have trouble and drug addiction and he ran away and all that shit?
Who John C.
What I
Reilly?
know is that Genesis had the worst trailer in history. They gave away the plot in the poster and the trailer.
That was
There has
quite-
not been a good Terminator movie since the second one.
Unfortunately true.
What do you
I
guys
was
think?
so
I like
in
Firefly.
shock after Genesis that my primary complaint was you had Guns N' Roses as the soundtrack. From where to fucking Rihanna as the soundtrack?
I haven't watched the latest one till now, so that needs to be. Okay,
Latest was
Abhishek,
the
wrap it
Dark
up.
Fate, right?
Yeah, Dark Fate. I haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, don't.
It's horrible. Anyway,
मेरा भी अभी pending है.
No, मत देख. Anyway, that does it for another edition of the Film Geeks podcast. We definitely had a lot of fun. Thank you again, Sarthak, Anshuman, And Ishwar, a quick plug. You guys can check out FTLOC comics on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Instagram. Amazing comic book content. So please go ahead, hit like, share, subscribe, and all that. Do the same for us as well. If you guys are watching us for the first time on the Film Geeks group, or have you guys have just stumbled across this podcast, please do like and share and subscribe to our content. We try to come up with a podcast every Saturday. And please live. We try to go live every Saturday. Thank you. He'll be editing that. Also check out Living Room Sessions on Instagram. That is, these guys come up with concerts all over the Delhi NCR area. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. These dudes keep giving out live shows and gigs on Instagram. So they go live on Instagram.
We're actually having one right now as we speak.
There's one happening right now. So if you are online, please go over to Instagram and check out livingroomsessions.in. Amazing indie content there. Ishwar, I don't know what to plug, but please go read more manga and don't watch more hedonistic content like anime. Thank you very much. You guys can my brother on Instagram too. See you. Bye bye. Take care. Go Corona. Go. Jai Mata Di. Let's rock.
Happy Ramzan to everyone.
Guys.
Oh yeah.
Happy Ramzan.
Happy Ramzan.
Adil.
And Hussein and Fuzail.
Yes.
Our regular listeners.
And where's
And
Hussein?
fellow podcaster. Hello, thanks guys.
Ran away.
I'm closing this.
Guys,
Thank you
Bye.
guys again.
Bye.
Chalo, bye. Peace out.
bye.